Good evening, football fans. Big Al here on this Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. And before we take a look at the live college football playoff rankings going into week 12, let's take a look at the week 12 college football television schedule and the announcers for every single game. This information is courtesy of www.506sports.com. Just click the college football tab on the home page. Okay, let's jump into the schedule, which begins here in about 20 minutes or so with 3 games. On ESPN2 at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, you've got Toledo at Bowling Green with Jay Alter and Renee Igogila. Then on ESPNU, it's Western Michigan at Northern Illinois with Connor Onion and Aaron Murray. And on CBS Sports Network, you've got Akron at Eastern Michigan with Chick Hernandez and Malik Zaire. Then you have 2 more games tomorrow night, November 15th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2. Buffalo at Miami of Ohio, Mike Corey and Rocky Boyman. And on ESPNU, you've got Central Michigan at Ohio University with Jason Ross Jr. and Dustin Fox. 1 game on the schedule for Thursday night, the 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, ESPN. It's Boston College at Pittsburgh with Matt Berry and Dan Mullen. And then 2 games on Friday. At 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2, South Florida at UTSA, Anish Sharaff and Andre Ware. And on FS1 at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, you've got Colorado at Washington State with Tim Brando and Spencer Tillman. That brings us to the early afternoon portion of the schedule on Saturday. And you've got a host of games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let me count these again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 games. Kicking off at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. On ABC, it's Louisville at Miami with Sean McDonough and Greg McElroy. On Fox's Big Noon Saturday, it's Michigan at Maryland, Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt. On ESPN, Oklahoma at BYU, Mark Jones, Lewis Riddick, and Quint Kessenich. On ESPN2, SMU at Memphis, Beth Mowins and Kirk Morrison. On FS1, you've got Rutgers at Penn State, Chris Myers and Robert Smith. On ESPNU, Harvard at Yale, Eric Freedy and Jack Ford. On ESPN News, it's East Carolina at Navy with Mike Corey and Dustin Fox. On the SEC Network, it's Louisiana Monroe at Ole Miss, Taylor Zarzar and Matt Combe. And then you have 3 games on ESPN Plus and SEC Network Plus. At 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. You've got Abilene Christian at Texas A&M with Courtney Lyle and Hudson Mason. Chattanooga at Alabama with John Schifrin and Rocky Boyman. And Southern Miss at Mississippi State with Clay Matvick and Aaron Murray. And then you have 2 games of regional interest on BTN at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Some will see Michigan State at Indiana with Jason Ross Jr. and Anthony Herron. Others will see Purdue at Northwestern with Connor Onion and Matt Millen. On CBS Sports Network, it's Coastal Carolina at Army with Chris Lewis and Ross Tucker. On WFSB Channel 3, the CBS television station in Hartford, at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, it's Sacred Heart at Connecticut. There is no broadcast team announced for this game. And then you got another game streaming on ESPN Plus at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. That is Tulane at Florida Atlantic with Richard Cross and Taylor McHardaway. Also streaming on ESPN Plus at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, it's Massachusetts at Liberty. And there is no broadcast team announced for this game. At 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on Hawaii pay-per-view and Team One Sports, it's Hawaii at Wyoming. And there is no broadcast team announced for this game either. And then you've got a host of games on ESPN Plus at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, 5 to be exact. You have Appalachian State at James Madison with Kurt Dudley and Brian Barlow. Kent State at Ball State with Michael Reggie and Marcus Ray. Louisiana Tech at Jacksonville State has no broadcast team announced for that game. You also have Rice at Charlotte with Noah Reed and Reggie Walker. And UTEP at Middle Tennessee, there is no broadcast team announced for this game. At 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific on the Pac-12 network is Utah at Arizona with Ted Robinson and Yogi Roth. Same time streaming on ESPN Plus is Cincinnati, West Virginia with George Sedano and Orlando Franklin. And then you've got 5 games at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific. On the CW, it's Duke at Virginia, Evan Lepler and Dave Archer. And then you've got 3 games streaming on ESPN Plus. North Texas at Tulsa with Ted Emmerich and Adam Brenneman. Temple at UAB with James Wessling and Leger Duzable. And Texas State at Arkansas State, there is no broadcast team announced for this game. Also at 3 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific on Mountain West Conference Digital, Nevada at Colorado State, and there is no broadcast team announced for this game either. Now to the late afternoon portion of the Saturday schedule. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific. On ABC, it's the Battle of Los Angeles as UCLA battles USC at the Coliseum with Dave Pasch, Dusty Dvorak, and Tom Luginbill. On the Home Depot SEC on CBS, it's Georgia at Tennessee with Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson. On NBC, Wake Forest at Notre Dame, Jack Collinsworth and Jason Garrett. On ESPN, North Carolina at Clemson, Bob Wischusen and Robert Griffin III. On ESPNU, Bethune-Cookman faces off with Florida A&M at Camping World Stadium in Orlando with Tiffany Green and Jay Walker. On FS1, it's Illinois at Iowa, Adam Alexander and Devin Gardner. On the ACC network, NC State at Virginia Tech, Chris Cotter and Mark Herzlich. On CBS Sports Network, you've got UNLV at Air Force, Carter Blackburn and Randy Cross. On NFL Network, it's Louisiana Lafayette at Troy with Doug Sherman and Teoka Jackson. And then you got 2 games streaming on ESPN Plus. Baylor at TCU with Sean Kenny and Barrett Brooks. And then Sam Houston at Western Kentucky has no broadcast team announced for that game. At 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on Fox, Oregon at Arizona State, Jeff Levering and Mark Helfrich. On ESPN2, it's Oklahoma State at Houston with Dave Fleming and Brock Osweiler. On the SEC Network, New Mexico State at Auburn, Dave Neal and Derek Mason. On BTN is Minnesota at Ohio State, Corey Provis and Jake Butt. At 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific on FS2, UCF at Texas Tech with Guy Haberman and Charles Arbuckle. Streaming on ESPN Plus at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific is Marshall at South Alabama. And then at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, also streaming on ESPN Plus, is Old Dominion at Georgia Southern. There are no broadcast teams announced for those two games. And how about that? The CW has an ACC doubleheader because they have a second game at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 Pacific. And that's North Alabama at Florida State with Tom Wormay and James Bates. Also at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific on the Pac-12 network is California at Stanford, Battle of the Bay, probably the last one for a while, with Roxy Bernstein and Max Brown. On to the evening portion of the schedule at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on FS1, Kansas State at Kansas, Alex Faust and Petros Papadakis. On CBS Sports Network, it's Boise State at Utah State with Rich Waltz and Aaron Taylor. Then you've got 5 games at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. On ABC's Saturday Night Football, it's Washington at Oregon State, Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. Then on Big Ten Saturday night on NBC, it's Nebraska at Wisconsin, Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge. On ESPN, it's Florida at Missouri, Joe Tessitore and Jesse Palmer. On ESPNU, it's Florida International at Arkansas, Brian Custer and Rod Gilmore. And on the SEC network, you've got Kentucky at South Carolina, Tom Hart, Jordan Rogers, and Cole Kubelic. At 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on Fox, Texas at Iowa State, Jason Benetti and Brock Heward. On ESPN2, it's Georgia State at LSU, Roy Philpott and Roddy Jones. On the ACC network, it's Syracuse at Georgia Tech, Wes Durham and Tim Hasselbeck. And then the last 2 games of the night are at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. On FS1, it's New Mexico at Fresno State with Jordan Kent and Will Blackman. And on CBS Sports Network, San Diego State at San Jose State with Dave Ryan and Dante Whitner. And that is a look at the Week 12 college football television schedule and the announcers for every game. But we're not done with the college pigskin talk just yet, because coming up next, we'll unveil the 3rd college football playoff rankings going into week number 12. That is all, and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and enjoy the pigskin. And join me in just a few minutes for the live reveal of the college football playoff rankings.